Hey everybody, it's Missy.
And April.
And this is SheelaNaGig. Hello everybody, welcome. Welcome back. We're happy to be here. We haven't seen each other in a while. And of course, know the drill. I say it every time, but just in case, each week we explore our own SheelaNaGig, and that's a woman whose strength, perseverance has led her to greatness, somebody who empowers us, inspires us.
Somebody you know, or somebody maybe you should know.
Yeah. Or maybe you should know the true story.
Yeah.
Some of these women are very misrepresented, so sometimes we just kind of need to retell the tale.
Yeah. What do we say? Shine the light and fight the fight.
You did it.
I did it. I got our tagline right.
Oh my gosh.
I miss it up most times.
It's kind of funny though. It's funny. So, and thanks everybody. We really appreciate your, subscribing. We appreciate your comments. Thank you so much. We're excited that so many people are following us on Instagram now and social media. We're just really delighted, and we thank you all for being part of our audience and for listening, and just being with us today. So, April, how are you?
I'm good. I'm well. Thanks. It's been a minute.
I miss you. I was really excited when she walked in the door. I was like, oh, it's April. I was really happy to see her. And what's been going on? Tell me.
Well, it's Mother's Day.
Yeah, it was Mother's Day. Yes.
Mother's Day. And my daughter, who lives in New York City right now, came home for Mother's Day. So that was really wonderful.
That's wonderful.
And you had a nice Mother's Day?
I had a great Mother's Day. I did. I got my hair done, which was very exciting in the morning. And I told my family, I was like, I'd been out of town. I was like, I want you to unpack my suitcase and clean the house. So when I come back, everything's clean. And they did.
And they
totally did.
Wow.
And then there were these flowers. You can see my flowers. And then there were a card from each of them, which was really nice. And then I told my husband, just plan something that's free and fun and interesting that I've never experienced before. Yeah. And he was, so they took me to the Great Wall of Los Angeles, where I'd never been before. I didn't even know about it. No, it's a half-mile mural of the history of Los Angeles. It was completed, I think, in 1983 or 84, started in the 70s. Really interesting, beautiful. I sat there with my phone because I had to look up everything in history. Wait, who's this? What's this? It was very interesting. And then we went to Coima because they have this thing called the Mile of Murals. And so you can go all over and see these beautiful murals. Wow. Yeah, really cool stuff. So it was like and then I had Detroit pizza for dinner, my favorite Detroit pizza at this really good place in Pasadena called Fuji and Vise. I recommend it if you like Detroit pizza. Yeah, totally.
Great.
But we had been in Salt Lake for my daughter's volleyball tournament.
You've had it twice a week.
We've been around.
No wonder I haven't seen you.
Yeah, we've been around. It felt like my touring days. I drove 10 hours straight. Wow. It was like, we stopped twice, but I felt like the touring days before we had a driver was like, this is pretty cool. Yeah, it's great. So what else, April?
Well, what else is my Sheela?
Your Sheela, of course. But I feel excited about your Sheela today.
Yeah, I'm excited about her too, and in a way you inspired her.
I did?
Well, yeah, because in the 2-part episodes you did on Dare Write, made me realize that I too have a favorite author. She's not a children's writer. She's very much an adult, contemporary poet and novelist.
Yes.
And just such a gifted writer and social activist and role model. And I thought I should feature her. She should be my
Why not?
Sheela.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
So I'm really excited to share not only about her, but a little bit of her work. I have a few poems.
Oh my gosh, great.
That I have spent my entire adult life reading because I love them.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm excited. We'll bring it. Let's do it, girl.
Okay, well, I'm happy and excited to say that my Sheela is Marge Piercy, who is 90 years old.
Ooh, still living. That's amazing.
Still living at a nice, ripe age. And considering she had a lot of health problems, I was happy to see that she's alive and 90 and still doing...
How does she spell her last name?
Piercy. Marge Piercy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. She's an American feminist, novelist, and poet. And she has to date published 17 novels, except she has another one coming out this year.
Wow. At 90.
At 90.
That's cray-cray.
That's
good for her. That's amazing. Right? She's still going strong, you know? Why not?
She produced 17 volumes of poetry. And she co-wrote a play with her husband, Ira Wood. And she's written more than 25 short stories and hundreds of essays and reviews.
Oh my gosh, I love her. And I feel really ignorant. I don't know who she is.
That's okay. That's why we do this. Because
I know. I'm not as literary as I should be.
Yeah. There's no should, and she's a contemporary writer.
Yeah.
She's very known in the feminist literature.
Yeah, and I should know her. You know, I used to be an avid reader, and I kept up books too. And then I had children, and Mike always jokes I have two speeds. 110% are totally passed out. So often when I try to read, I fall asleep. Like, I know it's coming for me. Like, I know when the kids get older and I know that reading's going to come back into my life, but I feel like there's been a void with reading for sure.
I would say for myself in the last 8 to 10 years, it has come back more and more and more. Now I read about 4 books at one time.
Wow. But, like Mike, my husband, he does that. Yeah.
Yeah, but 8 or 10 years ago, I wasn't reading probably at all.
Yeah.
When you have kids and you're busy with that life and you're working.
I still have a 13-year-old, so yeah.
Yeah.
Back to Piercy.
The other thing that I love about Marge Piercy is that she was a very active political activist since way back in her 20s when she was served with the Students for Democratic Society, which started for her in the 1960s when, of course, the youth and social upheaval of the Vietnam War really exploded. Her passion for social justice continues to this day. She is currently involved in anti-war, Iraq War analysis and protests. And one admirer of her work has said, Piercy is exceptional in her ability to translate political life into fiction, poetry, essays, lectures, and teaching, thereby leaving behind continuing to create a memorable, enduring legacy that underscores politics in brilliant creative forms. And that's why I love her. Yeah. I love her work because it is so meaningful. The way that I discovered her, actually my sister Wendy discovered her when I was a freshman in 1982 at Cobleskill College, upstate New York, at one of the state universities. My sister came to visit me out in the middle of nowhere in the country, and she was going through the library, and she found Marge Piercy's novel, Small Changes. That was in 1982. Piercy wrote it in 1972. And probably I tried to get Sarah, my daughter, to read it.
This always happens.
But it's really dated. It was such an iconic novel of its era. Yeah. I think women of my age would particularly appreciate it because it was like taking the veil, lifting the veil off of my eyes and really exposing me really to counterculture lifestyle and what that looked like through really engaging female characters.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about that, because we often have these experiences with books and authors, and we have this passion. You just, you didn't want the book to end. Yeah. And you can't wait to share it with your children.
They don't want to.
I don't know if it's like you say, like in terms of like the context of the era, whatever that is, But quick little story. I love The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton, I love The Outsiders and Rumblefish. And that was then, This Is Now. I loved those books. They are like the books of my youth, my teen years. So I was really excited to buy it for my son when he was about the right age, And he was like, Mom, this is just so boring. I'm just not into this. I'm sorry. I'm not going to read this book. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now my daughter, she comes home one day. I look in her backpack. What's in her backpack? The Outsiders. Her teacher has them reading The Outsiders.
Is she enjoying it?
Yeah, and my daughter hates to read.
Oh, but she likes it.
But she loved The Outsiders. I feel like it's the first book that she loved.
That's great.
Because I feel like now she's turned a corner. She loved
that happened for my daughter. That happened for my daughter too in high school.
Yeah.
She came, but now she always has a book.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
Well, speaking of families and reading, when my sister found Small Changes, I read it and loved it. She shared it with both of my parents, my mother and my father, and we all became Marge Piercy fans.
That is so cool.
We all started reading her novels. We all started reading her poetry. And after Cobleskill for 2 years, I was able to transfer to Emerson College in Boston.
Yeah.
And Marge Piercy lives in Wellfleet in Cape Cod. Wellfleet, Massachusetts in Cape Cod. And she used to give readings in Boston while I was a student.
Oh,
I would go to see her readings, and I just lived for those.
It's a freaking
And so a funny story was she had a new novel coming out, And of course, you come to the reading and you buy the novel and she signs it. And I told my mother I was going and she said, well, you go up there and you tell Marge Piercy that I love her. So
Roz loves
you. So I did. I said, my mother wanted me to tell you that she loves you. And she said, oh, is this for your mother? And I was like, no, that book is mine, April.
Oh my God, it's hilarious.
And she laughed. And I was so excited. I called my sister and I made Marge Piercy laugh.
Oh,
I was so excited.
That's so exciting.
Anyway, she was born on March 31st, 1936 in none other than Detroit, Michigan.
She's an Aries.
And she's an Aries.
She's a Detroit Aries like me.
Right.
Oh, okay.
She was born to Bert Bernice Bunnan and Robert Douglas Piercy. And like so many families in that era, her parents came from modest means and they suffered really greatly during the Great Depression. They were very poor. Her mother, Bert, was born in Philadelphia and also lived in Pittsburgh for a while and Cleveland before she settled with her dad in Detroit. Her father, Robert Piercy, grew up in a small, soft coal mining town in Pennsylvania. And they hadn't been living in Detroit very long when he lost a job. He was laid off from Westinghouse. And he ended up staying unemployed for 2 years, which was really financially devastating. Yeah. He was eventually rehired by Westinghouse, and his job was installing and repairing heavy machinery. Interestingly, he pretty much had the same role for the rest of his career, retired. And towards the end of his tenure, just before he retired, they promoted him to supervisor. But he didn't have any employees that he supervised. He was supervisor of himself.
Wow. Okay.
She and her parents and her older brother moved into a very small house in a working-class neighborhood in Detroit, which she often described as a small box or a matchbox-size home. And she described her neighborhood as being either black or white by block. This was the Black Street, this was White Street.
Oh,
She's Jewish, as I will elaborate on a little bit more later. And Jews and blacks were kind of lumped together in the same category when she was growing up. She said, I didn't grow up white. Jews weren't considered white. My first boyfriend was black, and I didn't find out I was white until I spent time in Baltimore. Also, I went to a segregated high school. I can't express how weird it was. Then I figured out they just didn't know I was Jewish, and they started saying I was a white person.
It's interesting. I wonder, I'm trying to think of what neighborhood that might have been.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But she writes a lot about it.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'll have to look that up. So I'm thinking of different neighborhoods that it could be. So I've got to look that up.
Yeah. Another wormhole for you to
exactly
climb into. Her brother was 14 years older. He had been born from a previous marriage that his mother had. And Marge's maternal grandfather, Morris, was a union organizer who was murdered while organizing bakery workers.
Oh.
And I think that was the roots of her activism.
Sure.
Her maternal grandmother, Morris's wife, Hannah, was somebody that Marge was very close to. She had been born in a Lithuanian shtetl, which is a Jewish enclave, poor Jewish enclave, the daughter of a rabbi. So she was very religious. Grandmother Hannah was a great storyteller, Marge said. And she and my mother told many of the same stories, but the stories always came out differently.
I know how this is.
Although her father was not Jewish, he was raised Presbyterian and observed no religion. She was raised as a Jew by her grandmother and her mother. And Marge practices Judaism to this day. It's an important part of her identity. It's in her poetry, in some of her characters in her novels. Her father's family was actually quite anti-Semitic.
Oh, my God.
And Marge and her mother often felt treated rudely and like outsiders within that family.
But by him, too?
No, I didn't get that.
Or just his family?
Yeah, he wasn't religious. He didn't get into all that.
Got it. That sucks. That sucks when that happens. I mean, yeah, it still happens. It's awful. Yeah.
Marge credits her mother with making her a poet. She describes her mother as an emotionally imaginative woman full of odd lore and superstitions. Her mother read voraciously and encouraged Marge to do the same. In some of my readings of Piercy's work, she makes references, and I'll be sharing one, to her mother reading palms or being a little bit psychic.
Ooh.
But not entirely sure. She's never that explicit about it, or at least I haven't found anything yet that describes that explicitly. Marge described her mother as being an enormously curious person.
I like that.
Yeah.
Would you say your mom was an enormously curious person?
Yeah, she was fairly
I think
curious.
my mom was too. I would say we would, just hearing that statement, I think we could both relate to that in terms of our mothers, yeah?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, Marge and her mother fought viciously during her teenage years, and she left home at the age of 17, right? She left home at 17 and recalls that she and mother did not become close again until very late in her mother's life. And I'm going to stop right here with her biography and share a poem that she wrote about her mother many, many years before passing. And later on in her she shared with the audience. I have fortunate enough to not that she did share this poem with her mother before her mother and her mother liked it.
Oh, very nice.
It's called Crescent Moon Like a Canoe. This month you carried me late and heavy in your belly, and finally near Tuesday midnight you gave me light and life. The season cord turns and suffer. I cannot save you, though I burn with dreams. Memories the color of old blood, scraps of velvet gowns, lace chiffon veils, your sister's stage costumes Ziegfeld didn't stand. We lingered together, you padding in sneakers and wash-worn house dresses. You grew celery by tucking slice-off bottoms in the soil. You kept a compost pile in 1940. Your tomatoes glowed like traffic signals in the table-sized yard. Don't kill fighters, you warned. In an asbestos box in Detroit, where sputtering factories yellow the air, where sheets on the lines turned ashen, you nurtured a backyard jungle. Every cat wanted to enter, and every child. You who had not been allowed to finish 10th grade, but were sent to be a frightened chambermaid, carried home every week armloads of books from the library, rummaging them late into the night, insomniac. Rifling the books like boxes of chocolates, searching for candied cherries, the nuts hunting for secrets, the formula, the knowledge of others learned that made them shine and never ache. You were taught to feel stupid. You were made to feel dirty. You were forced to feel helpless. You were trained to feel lost, uprooted, terrified. You could not love yourself or me. Dreamer of fables that hid their own endings, kitchen witch, reader of palms. You gave me gifts and took them back, but the real ones boil in the blood and swell in the breast, furtive and strong. You gave me hands that can pick up a wild bird so that the bird relaxes, turns and stares. I have handled 50 stunned and injured birds and killed only 2 through clumsiness with your touch. You taught me to see the scale on the bird's legs, the old woman's scalp pinkens as it was under the fluff, the golden flecks in the iris of your eyes, the silver undersides of leaves blown back. I am your poet, mother. You did not want the daughter you got. You wanted a girl to flirt as you did and marry as you had, and chew the same sour coughed-up cud. Yet you wanted, too, to birth a witch, a revenger, a sword of hearts, who would do all the things you feared. Don't do it, they'll kill you. You're bad, you said, slapping me down hard. But at least you whispered I could have. Only rebellion flashes like lightning. I wanted to take you with me. You don't remember. We fought like snakes, biting hard at each other's spines to snap free. You burned my paper armor, boiled my diaries, snuffed my pasting for smudges of sex. So I took off and never came back. You can't imagine how I still long to save you, to carry you off. You can't trust me to make coffee. But your life and mine pass different centuries under altered suns. I see your blood soaking in the linoleum. I see you twisted, a mop some dyed hand is reading out. A careless joke and shouted insults and knotted fist. Pain like knives and forks set out on the domestic table. You took men for your salvation, and every year finds you more helpless. I do battle for other women, myself included, because I cannot give you anything you want. I cannot midwife you free. In my childhood bed we float, your sweet husky voice singing about the crescent moon, with 2 horns sharp and bright. We would climb into like a boat and row away, and see you sang where the pretty moon goes. In the land where the moon hides mothers and daughters, hold each other tenderly. There is no male law at 5 o'clock. Our sameness and our differences do not clash, metal on metal, but we celebrate and learn. My muse, your voice on the phone wavers with tears. The life you gave me burns its acetylene of buried anger, used talents, rotted wishes, the compost of discontent, flaring into words, strong for other women, under your waning moon.
Holy shit. That is one of the best poems I have ever heard. It is freaking stunning.
Yeah. I've only just warming up.
Oh my God. I mean, there's such inspiration, but then there's like humor, and there's so much, wow. This is wow. This is amazing. Marge Piercy. I'm totally on board. I'm going to start reading her tomorrow, maybe tonight. Okay. Wow. Okay, keep going, April.
So Marge recalls having a reasonably happy childhood, but halfway through grammar school, she became almost fatally ill with German measles, and followed by a bout of rheumatic fever, so she barely made it.
Wow.
She went from a healthy kid into what she described as a skeletal creature with blue skin given to fainting.
Oh my, that's just so sad.
But it was while she was sick that she learned to take refuge in books. And before that, she was considered a mediocre student who hadn't embraced her mother's love of reading. It was, and she's quoted as saying, it, meaning reading, taught me that there were different worlds out there. And there were all these horizons that were quite different from what I could see. So that was the beginning of her becoming a voracious reader. She attended public school and high school in Detroit. And at 17, she won a scholarship to the University of Michigan.
Wow.
And it paid her tuition. And that was how she left home at 17.
Wow, that's amazing. And such a prestigious school. Yeah.
Yes, very. She was the first person in her family to go to college, and she remarked that in some ways college was easy for her because she was good at taking tests and she was motivated to learn. But she also found other aspects of college life being quite painful, especially because she didn't feel she fit into the image of what women were supposed to be like at that time. She felt shunned because she embraced these feminist ideas, and she also was unabashed about her own sexuality. She's very sensual, and in those days you were supposed to be very prim and proper and not like that.
She's a badass.
Yes. Ironically, this was interesting. She won 4 very prestigious Hopwood Awards while she was in college. The playwright Avery Hopwood, who is the author of Sex Farces, had left his fortune to the University of Michigan to be used to encourage good original student writing. And Marge won 4 of these awards for her writing in both poetry and fiction in 1957.
Wow.
Yeah, and I say it's ironic because while she was shunned for her progressive ideas and overt sexuality, her writing did win her those awards on the themes of sexual passion, reproductive rights, gender roles, and the reclamation of women's bodies.
Amazing.
So the very thing that she felt shunned from by her peers got her pretty far.
And it's interesting, we're talking about 1957 again. That's the same year that Dare Wright's Lonely Doll came out.
Right.
And just interesting. These women were doing new things.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
And those awards, the Hopwood Award she got really helped her financially to launch her career, kind of help set her up.
Sure.
While she was a student, a master's student in Northwestern University in Massachusetts, in 1958, she married Michael Schiff, a French-Jewish physicist exchange student. And Schiff's family had survived the Holocaust by crossing illegally into Switzerland, and her relationship with him helped frame the French-Jewish family that she created for her novel Gone to Soldiers, which I read and was wonderful. And it's a book about World War II.
Okay.
Excellent. Piercy ended up divorcing Schiff at the ripe old age of 23. Although her husband was kind and a very bright man, his expectations of conventional gender roles in marriage and his inability to take her writing seriously led Marge to leave him.
Well, good for her.
Yeah, those things were very important to her.
Of course.
From there, she did face a lot of financial difficulty writing poetry and fiction and struggling to get her early novels published. She found that publishers were really reluctant to take on feminist content at that time. Imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So she found herself living in Chicago, trying to learn how to write the kind of poetry and fiction she imagined she could create, but she didn't feel like she was quite seasoned yet as a writer, that she hadn't fully found her voice. She held miserable part-time jobs as a secretary, switchboard operator, a department store clerk, an artist model, and a poorly paid part-time faculty instructor. And she recalls that time of her life in Chicago as feeling miserable and very invisible.
Aww.
She felt that as a woman, society defined her as a failure. She was a divorcee by the time she was 23. She was poor, living on part-time work. And she wrote novel after novel, but was unsuccessful getting published. At the time, she understood two things about her fiction. One was that she wanted to write fiction with a political dimension, like Simone de Beauvoir was her role model.
Okay.
And she wanted to write about women who could be recognized, not like heroic, mythical figures, but working class, everyday people who were not as simple as they seemed to be.
Mm-hmm.
In 1962, she married her second husband, Robert Shapiro, who was a computer scientist. Her second marriage was not conventional. It was an open relationship. They both took in lovers and often described other people living with them. They had a very serious involvement that sometimes were described as beautiful and rich and other times ghastly and bumpy.
And this is in 60. How old is she at this point?
She's in her 20s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She just got that she wasn't going to fit into this conventional mode.
Yeah. And she found, good for her that she found somebody who felt the same way.
Yeah, they did. And they had this open relationship and it didn't always work, but sometimes it did. And yeah. The couple first lived in Cambridge and then in San Francisco. Eventually, they returned to the East Coast. Both Marge and her husband were absolutely outraged over the Vietnam War, and they both became very actively involved in its opposition. She became involved with an organization, the Students for a Democratic Society, and she was also in the midst of trying to get her first book published. After realizing that the major problem with the novel was that she was trying to sell it from a feminist point of view, she decided consciously, she made a very strategic decision to adopt a male character's perspective. So she let go of the female voice and had a male-dominated protagonist. Yeah. In 1966, the couple moved to Brooklyn, New York, and she became one of the original founders of the North American Congress on Latin America. This is a left-wing research organization that produces critical reporting on U.S. Latin American relations, corporate influence, and the influence and impact of the CIA. She also played a significant role in the Movement for a Democratic Society, which was an off-campus organization that was conducted an MDS chapter in Brooklyn for political activism. And in 1967, she became an organizer with SDS regional office in New York.
Wow.
Yeah. So, our Sheilas are always doing
a million things.
Yeah, a million things.
Yes.
Each one in and of itself should have been enough or could have been enough. From 65 until her health collapsed in 69, her main focus was political. She continued to write, but most of her time was devoted to political organizing. She went to work at 6:30, wrote before anybody else got up in the morning, and of course she lived with her husband and whatever other significant relationships were happening. And after that, she began a full day and evening of political work.
Wow.
So several factors forced Marge and her husband to leave New York. One major issue was her poor health. Also, the movement community, once close and warm, grew into these splintering, warring factions. It became infiltrated by violent provocateurs, and members were racked by a sense of futility because the Vietnam War kept going on and on, and they weren't feeling like they were getting anywhere.
But what happened with her health?
Well, I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
At that time, Marge was getting more and more involved in the women's movement and organizing conscious-raising groups and also writing articles. So her debut novel, Going Down Fast, was published in 1969. The novel explores gentrification and relationships in a predominantly African-American neighborhood that was threatened by university expansion. The story follows characters as they fight to save their community and navigate personal struggles, love, and loss against the backdrop of economic and social change. And the novel is known for its social commentary on urban life, class, and the human heart.
Is it put deep in Detroit?
I think it's a fictional college, and I read Going Down Fast, but I can't remember it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure. But as I mentioned earlier, she wrote it from a male perspective so that she could get it published.
Sure.
So the strategy worked. She did get it printed, and it did align with her values of really making moral and political statements.
Sure.
In 1971, she and her husband, Robert, made a very significant move to Cape Cod, which they did for her health. She had declining health. And they had no idea what it would be like to live year-round on the Cape, having never lived anywhere but in a major city.
Yeah, it's a big change.
They had brought land in Wellfleet, and had a simple house built. And Marge began writing a novel that captivated my heart and soul, Small Changes. And she also wrote the tarot poems Laying Down Tower, which was also a work of poetry. Living the Cave described her creativity as becoming unleashed, as she regained both her health and a measure of peace. So it's important to note that she never really left Cape Cod, and that she toured and taught and traveled. But Massachusetts has been her home ever since 1971.
That's nice. She found her happy place.
She did. She began gardening, loving what she called grubbing in the dirt. She spent time growing fruit, vegetables, herbs, and flowers like her mother. Marge was also active in the women's movement on the Cape and began relating to Boston as the city. It used to be New York was the city, but Boston became her city.
Sure.
She often conducted her research in Boston, and while Marge quickly put down roots on the Cape, her husband Robert felt really alienated and bored, and the relationship ended in 1976. The emotional and official disentanglement of their marriage and relationship took several more years to complete.
Okay. Now that book that you, Small Changes, that was in 82?
Yes.
And her first book was...
No, it was actually in 72.
You didn't read it. That's right.
I didn't read it.
Exactly. That makes sense. Okay, got it. Yep.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, she traveled for much of her professional life, giving readings, workshops, and lectures. The Cape is still her home to this day. She's 90. And her poetry changed after she moved to the Cape, as she began to sense herself belonging to the landscape and to the web of living beings. And she wrote this wonderful poem about squash. And it's funny, and I wanted to read it, but I don't think, I have so many that I wanted to read. It was hard to choose. Yeah. She met writer and future husband Ira Wood in 1976. And he was 26 years old, and he described himself as a flattering writer.
How old was she at that point?
She was 40.
Oh, wow.
Established
robbed the cradle there.
Yeah. Wood described himself as an immature, struggling writer at the time, while Marge was a successful, glamorous mentor figure who encouraged his talent. This sweet. Yeah. It led to a long-term partnership and collaboration. Early on in their relationship, they wrote a play together, The Last White Class. And Ira Wood has written a number of plays and published 2 novels. The couple is said to have a very close, intimate relationship. They wrote a novel together that was published in 1998, Storm Tide, which I didn't read or haven't read yet. And in 1997, the couple founded Leapfrog Press, which is a literary publishing company.
Okay.
And to this day, she and Ira Wood live in Massachusetts in a home that Marge designed herself.
Cool.
And so creative and earthy, and even like people may think that she's wild because of her multiple partners and open marriage, but she's actually seems so earthy to me. An extremely prolific writer. She's published, as I mentioned, nearly 20 books of poetry and nearly 20 novels. Her novels generally address broader social concerns, as we've talked about, sharply observed characters and brisk plot lines. Though generally on issues about class and culture, and usually written from a feminist position, her novels have taken on a variety of genres, including historical fiction, science fiction, and speculative fiction. Her novel He, She, and It, which was groundbreaking, published as My Body of Glass in the UK, won that country's prestigious Arthur C. Clarke Award. An earlier novel of speculative fiction, Woman on the Edge of Time, which she published in 1976, also groundbreaking, has been credited as the first work of cyberpunk.
Yes. I love that.
So she was so versatile.
Yeah, it sounds really versatile. Yeah. And it's nice that she was able to kind of go back to her own voice.
Yes.
Through time. Yes. I'm sure it became a little more accepted, although I think we still struggle as women to be heard. But good for her.
Well, her poetry is described as swift, free verse, as you've kind of heard. Her poems share the same commitment to social and environmental issues as her novels. Her publication of The Moon is Always Female in 1980 is a book of poems from which I read that Crescent Moon Like a Canoe, is considered a classic text within the feminist movement. Early Girl, which she published in 1999, collects her earlier work and includes some unpublished poems. Of the autobiographical elements of her poetry, Marge has said that although my major impulse to autobiography has played itself out in poems rather than novels, I speak for a constituency, living and dead, and that I give utterance to energy, experience, insight, words flowing from many lives. I have always desired that my poems work for others to be of use is the title of one of my favorite poems and one of my best-known books. As of the spring of 2026, 90-year-old poet and novelist Marge Piercy lives in Wellfleet, Massachusetts, where she continues to write, garden, and participate in local environmental activism with her husband, Ira Wood, and she is currently preparing for the fall 2026 release of her new book, The Hour of My Death.
Damn. So she's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. No, going back to her health, you never told me. Are you still going to get there?
No, well, she felt much healthier living in Cape Cod. Like the climate of Cape Cod was Cape Cod.
What were her issues? Like she had failing health. What does that mean?
Well, she was very sick when she was a child, and I think that left her forever frail. And she's a very private person.
Okay.
She did write a memoir, which I'm reading right now, Sleeping with Cats, and it's wonderful. But she's a pretty private person.
Okay.
And doesn't really write a lot autobiographically in her novels, so you don't learn a lot directly about her.
Yes.
So I'm not sure. I'm hoping that when I read her autobiography or her
memoir, you can report back, okay?
Yes, I will.
Are you going to give me a poem?
Yeah. And this poem I particularly
I should say?
Yes. This poem I should say I wanted to share, Missy, with you because you're an artist, you're a musician, and it's called For the Young Who Want to.
I like the title.
Talent is what they say you have after the novel is published and favorably reviewed. Beforehand, what you have is a tedious delusion, a hobby, knitting. Work is what you have done after the play is produced and the audience claps. Before that, friends keep asking when you're planning to go out and get a job. Genius is what they know you had after the third volume of remarkable poems. Earlier, they accuse you of withdrawing, asking why you don't have a baby, calling you a bum. The reason why people want MFAs, take workshops with fancy names, when all you can really learn is a few techniques, typing instructions, and somebody else's mannerisms, is that every artist lacks a license to hang on the wall, like your optician, your vet, proving that you may be a clumsy sadist whose fillings fall into the stew, but you are a certified dentist. The real writer really writes. Talent is an invention like Philistine after the fact of fire. Work is its own cure. You have to like it better than being loved.
That is so profound and so true.
Yeah.
And it's really funny that she mentioned the knitting. I used to always use that very thing with, like in interviews or whatever. I would say, my family doesn't really get it. They think that it's a hobby like knitting.
Yes.
I would always say that it's a hobby like knitting. And so it's interesting that she chose that too, because I just never understood that I was a songwriter. I was a musician. I was, touring. They never saw it as real.
Yep.
Well, when is she going to mature and get on with her life? That was always kind of like where they were at. So that's interesting that she's knitting as well. Yes. That is a great poem. That is a great poem. You got another one?
I do.
Great.
She wrote this one in 1980, although Roe v. Wade had been passed. She felt the need to really champion women's bodily rights to choose and to own their own body. And this poem is very important in the feminist movement. It's obviously very important today in a way that maybe we hadn't foreseen. It's called Right to Life. A woman is not a pear tree thrusting her fruit in mindless fecundancy into the world. Even pear trees bear heavily one year and rest and grow the next. An orchard gone wild drops few warm rotting fruit in the grass, but the trees stretch high and wiry, gifting the birds 40 feet up among inches-long thorns, broken avastorically from the smooth wood. A woman is not a basket you place your buns in to keep them warm, not a brood hen you can slip ducks' eggs under, not a purse holding the coins of your descendants till you spend them in wars, not a bank where your genes gather interest and interesting mutations in the tainted rain any more than you are. You plant corn and you harvest it to eat or sell. You put the lamb in the pasture to fatten and haul it to the butcher for chops. You slice the mountain in two for a road and gorge the high plains for coal, and the waters run muddy for miles and years. Fish die, but you do not call them yours until you wish to eat them. Now you legislate mineral rights in a woman. You lay claim to her pastures for grazing fields, for growing babies like iceberg lettuce. You valued children so dearly that none go hungry, none weep, with no one to tend to them while mothers work. None lack fresh fruit, none chew lead or cough to death, and your orphanages are empty. Every noon the best restaurants serve poor children steaks. At this moment, at 9 o'clock, a partia is performing a tabletop abortion on an unwed mother in Texas who can't get Medicaid any longer. In 5 days, she will die of tetanus, and her little daughter will cry and be taken away. Next door, a husband and wife are sticking pins in the son they didn't want. They will explain for hours how wicked he is, how he wants discipline. We are all born of woman. In the rose of the womb, we suckle our mother's blood, and every baby born has a right to love, like a seedling to sun. Every baby born unloved, unwanted, is a bill that will come due in 20 years with interest, an anger that must find a target, a pain that will beget pain. A decade downstream, a child screams, a woman falls, a synagogue is torched, a firing squad is summoned, a button is pushed, and the world burns. I will choose what enters me, what becomes flesh of my flesh. Without choice, no politics, no ethics lives. I am not your cornfield, not your uranium mine, not your calf for fattening, nor your cow for milking. You may not use me as your factory. Priests and legislators do not hold chairs in my womb or in my mind. This is my body. If I give it to you, I want it back. My life is a non-negotiable demand.
Wow. She's fucking brilliant. Absolutely fucking brilliant. That is...
I love her.
Insane.
I love her.
Oh my God, I can see why you love her. This is amazing.
I have to read one more.
Yes, please.
It's my favorite mother-daughter poem.
Okay.
And she obviously wrote it after her mother passed away. And I will say that although they were estranged for many years, they did grow closer in the last decade before her mother passed.
Nice.
And this is called Putting the Good Things Away. In the drawer were folded fine batiste lips, embroidered with scrolls and posies, edged with handmade lace, too good for her to wear. Daily she put on schmatas, fit only to wash the car or the windows, rags that had never been pretty. Even when new, somewhere such dresses are sold only to women without money to waste on themselves, on pleasure. To women who hate their bodies, to women whose lives close on them, such dresses become bleached by tears, packed in salt like herring. Yet she put the good things away for the good days that must surely come, when promises would open like tulips their satin cups, for her to drink the sweet sacramental wine of fulfillment. This story shone in her as though tinted glass, how the mother gave up and did without, and was in the end crowned with what? Scallions, crowned queen of the dead place? In the heart where old dreams whistle on bone flutes, where river runs pets are never forgotten, where lost stockings go. In the coffin she was beautiful, not because of the undertaker's garish cosmetics, but because that face at 80 was still her face at 18, peering over the drab long dress of poverty, clutching a book. Where did you read your dreams, mother? Because her expression softened from the pucker of disappointment, the grimace of swallowed rage, she looked a white-haired girl. The anger turned inward, Where could it go except to make pain? It flowed into me with her milk. Her anger annihilated me. I was dipped in the cauldron of boiling rage and rose a warrior and a witch. But still vulnerable, there where she held me. She could always wound me, for she knew the secret places. She could always touch me, for she knew the pressure points of pleasure and pain. Our minds were woven together. I gave her presents, and she hid them away, wrapped in plastic. Too good, she said. Too good, I'm saving them. So after her death, I sorted them, the ugly things that were sufficient for every day, and the pretty things, for which no day of hers was ever good enough.
Oh.
I knew that would slay you. I shouldn't have read it.
It's hauntingly devastating, beautiful. Oh my gosh.
And that is why Marge Piercy is my Sheela.
Oh, Marge Piercy. Marge Piercy. I love Marge Piercy. I need to know more. Do you feel that way? If you feel that way, you're going to be like me, do some rabbit holes tonight. That's what I do late at night, into the night, look up things and people and things I heard about. And oh my gosh, I have to look her up. She's amazing. And I want to find out about her illness too, of course.
Well, her health, because she's 90 years old and she's still writing and gardening, and
she's like my mother-in-law. She's like Jan Flan. Shout out to Jan Flan, my mother-in-law, who's 91, who's just on fire. Yeah. And I always tell her, I want to be you when I grow up. And she's and it's amazing. That's wow. I love that, April. I love that. It's interesting when you were talking about that she wrote from a male perspective. That was very much something I did for a long time, just naturally. Mm-hmm. And I remember in college, my writing professor really liked my writing, and he would often like read my stuff out loud. He would, and then I remember one of the students like, "What a misogynist! This is written by a total misogynist." And they would be like, this is just so, and then he'd say, would the writer like to reveal themselves? And I'd be like, it's me. And everyone would be like, oh, what?
Were women angry with you?
A little bit maybe, but I mean, I was just exploring, like the male perspective. You know what I mean? I was just, and there was something really, I don't know. I mean, there was something very interesting to me about it. There's something that almost I couldn't, I say from a female perspective at times.
One thing I do want to say is the male characters in her books, most of them were wonderful. They were lovable. Yeah. She didn't write, I mean, she had her share of male characters that were assholes. Yeah. But she loved men. She loves men. And her love of and appreciation of men came across. So although she comes from a very feminist standpoint, she doesn't necessarily come from a man-hating standpoint. Yes. And that was an important distinction and something that I always appreciated about her writing.
Right. Well, we're not man-haters. No. We always talk about our support bros.
Yes, we do.
Our support bros, including our husbands.
Yep.
We both have amazing husbands. We're both super lucky. And, obviously, there are amazing men out there.
Yes.
And as well as amazing women, amazing people.
Yep. And Marge is still with her husband, Ira Wood.
I love that. And now their age difference doesn't matter that much.
Probably not.
Wait, so 26 to 40, what is that, 14 years?
Yes, 14 years.
So that makes him, if she's 90, that makes him what, 76? 76,
something like that, and old enough.
But yeah, at that age, whatever. It's just...
I'm old.
Anyway. Oh my gosh. Thank you for bringing her to the table today. And please send us your questions. This podcast is all about, giving these ladies light and just creating a conversation. So please, those 5-star reviews, man, they help us out. If you like this episode, please give us that 5-star review. Continue to subscribe, continue to listen. We really appreciate it. And until next time, au revoir.
Au revoir.
Sheela, Sheela, SheelaNaGig.